Hello everyone, I'm Babla Jonathan. Welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast over Equinoxe television. We are coming to you live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, children in Cameroon's far north region continue facing a disturbing situation, worsening malnutrition as insecurity continues disrupting access to food and healthcare, with a key humanitarian aid program coming to an end. Concerns are growing over the region's needs, and land disputes continue provoking social tensions across Cameroon. A case in point in this newscast is the Apo community that has dragged the state of Cameroon and Sokapam to court over a land dispute. And in Côte d'Ivoire, at least 59 people have been killed in heavy flooding. Those were our top stories. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. The resumption of construction work at the Angunu administrative area in Bolowa, south region of Cameroon, has reopened a long-running land dispute with a Sian family renewing claims or claiming ownership of the land, or the disputed land, as Immaculate Fogo reports.
Construction work has resumed at the site of the future Angunu Administrative District Office in Bolowa, reviving a long-running land dispute that has pitted the Siane family against those that are accused of unlawfully taking over their property. For 12 years, the family has been trying to recover its 9,806 square meters parcel of land. The dispute dates back to plans to construct the regional branch of the Bank of Central African States, BIAC. Two individuals approached my late nephew, Isiana Kajang, regarding his piece of land while he was still alive. He requested a meeting with officials from BIAC to discuss the matter. Strangely, after he raised the issue, those individuals disappeared and were never seen again. At the time, an offer of 300 million francs CFA was made for the land.
Et cette fois-là, on avait proposé 300 millions ce jour-là.
It was during that process that the family received a decree dated January 28, 2014, ordering the expropriation of the land for public utility. However, checks carried out with the competent authorities allegedly revealed serious inconsistencies in the document. The major concern is that the alleged presidential decree has never been published. We searched both the official gazette in Cameroon Tribune and the bilingual monthly bulletin issued by the civil cabinet of the presidency of the republic, but found no record of such a decree. The Isiane family says further investigations uncovered what it believes was a carefully orchestrated operation, with the BIAC project allegedly used as a front to facilitate the acquisition of the land through questionable means. It's also worth noting that the decree cited to justify the compensation bears the same reference number and year as another presidential decree appointing bailiffs. The existence of two different decrees with identical references raises serious doubts about the authenticity of the document. Despite the ongoing construction work, the family says it remains determined to pursue justice. 5 years after the case was filed, the courts have finally begun examining the matter.
Land disputes continue provoking social tensions across the Republic of Cameroon, from the major cities where there is a huge population pressure as a result of urban exodus, people moving en masse from different parts of the country to the major urban centers like the economic capital, Douala, and the political capital, Yaoundé, and also in the hinterlands where there are land disputes provoking social tensions. And in the Edea area of the Senegal Maritime Division in the littoral region of the country, the Apo community has dragged the state of Cameroon and the company Sokapam to court, and the case was heard at the administrative court in Bonanjo here in Douala. Today, the court declared itself incompetent to handle the matter. However, the villagers of that part of the Senegal Maritime Division have said they will continue mounting pressure for their right to be respected, for the expropriation of their lands to stop. We'll bring to you that report in our subsequent news editions. Time for us to bring to you the testimonies of an ex-prisoner who was detained at the New Bell Central Prison, the Douala Central Prison in New Bell here in Douala. And he tells us about the difficult detention conditions being decried by people like the Archbishop of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church, His Grace Samuel Kleda, and other right defenders and civil society leaders who have been raising grave concerns about the inhumane detention conditions in incarceration centers across Cameroon. Immaculate Thobe.
For 10 months and 2 weeks, Jean-Jacques Banjoun missed precious moments in his children's lives. Today, the family is reunited, but the memories of his time behind bars remains vivid.
Water in the prison, to have drinking water in the prison is not easy. And then whether you have drinking water in the prison, the drinking water is not clean. It's very dirty water that can give you sick. And then I fall sick many times in the prison. The food in the prison is very bad. Dirty corn and small beans, or dirty granite soup.
While he recalls the overcrowding and difficult living conditions, Banjoun says it was the emotional and psychological impact of imprisonment that left the deepest scars.
I was traumatized. I was traumatized in prison, and the place to sleep in prison is not easy. You have to get more money to have a place to sleep in the prison. Because I was not having money, I was obliged to sleep in the floor where rain is falling. Is another reality.
His detention also placed a heavy burden on his family. Left to care for their children alone, his wife recounts the hardship of those moments.
The thing was disturbing me because I was not having money to take care of the children. When he was going, my firstborn was 2 years, 4 months. This second one was 2 months, 2 weeks. I couldn't do anything with the children. So where I was working, I went, they said I cannot work because the child was small, I cannot work. So I was in the house with them.
Back at the Bonaberi Rye market, where he is well known, Banjoun says sharing his experience is not just about his own story. He hopes it will contribute to calls for more humane conditions in Cameroon's prisons.
Pray that this state look the condition of all another prisoner that are live in the prison.
Arrested in August 2025 over a video found on his phone during Professor Maurice Campto's return from Paris, Jean-Jacques Banjoun spent more than 10 months at the New Bell Central Prison before a court ordered his release. Now back with his family, he hopes his experience will help draw attention to the realities of prison life and a need for lasting reforms.
And in Cameroon's far north region, years of insecurity continue to fuel a humanitarian crisis, leaving thousands of families struggling to access health care and adequate food. Children in some of the hardest hit communities are bearing the brunt, with malnutrition cases on the rise. As a humanitarian support program draws to a close, concerns are growing over how vulnerable communities will cope without continued assistance. For me, Armstrong Sander tells us more.
The Mayodana and the Mayochanaga divisions are the hardest hit of the administrative units of the conflict-hit far north region of Cameroon. Repeated attacks have triggered mass displacement, making access to food and health services even harder.
Les villages qui sont très éloignés des formations sanitaires.
For families living far from hospitals, the result is growing malnutrition, especially among young children. To respond, a project funded by the German government and implemented by the ACF, Action Against Hunger, provided emergency assistance in most affected areas. But officials warn that the project now ending at a time when security situation is becoming more fragile.
Il faut déjà dire que le projet a apporté beaucoup.
New population movements are putting more strain on already limited resources.
La région de l'extrême nord est toujours en insécurité. Donc,
this week, administrative, health, and traditional authorities met in the region to take stock. The goal: assess the health situation and rally partners to secure new support. Their focus is twofold: reducing malnutrition and improve care for other health needs that are hitting children hardest. With insecurity rising and aid winding down, local authorities say more international support will be critical to protect vulnerable children in the far north region of Cameroon.
Cameroon's Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development has revoked 74 mining permits in a sweeping crackdown on illegal and non-compliant activities in the gold sector. The Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development says the permits, mostly for gold exploitation and artisanal mining, were withdrawn for failing to comply with the mining code, including administrative, environmental, and operational requirements. The move is part of a broader effort to reform the country's semi-mechanized mining sector and curb illicit gold trafficking. A nationwide audit uncovered nearly 200 illegal mining sites, mainly in the East and Adamawa regions, with authorities reporting that more than 95% were operated by foreign-owned entities. The government launched the operation after discovering major discrepancies between Cameroon's official gold export and import figures reported by the destination countries, particularly the United Arab Emirates, and revealing an estimated 15 tons of unaccounted for gold. Joint enforcement teams have since been deployed to shut down illegal mining sites, dismantle unauthorized processing facilities, and seize mining equipment. And responding to skepticism about the pace of Cameroon's mining sector, the Interim Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, Professor Fukalistus Gentry, says the country has moved from mineral potential to actual production. First, let's have the excerpt of the minister on the withdrawal of 74 mining permits.
We are restructuring the artisanal sector. We are putting in place mining companies. Cameroon is going to transform everything from mines to forest products to agricultural products. And there has been, since independence, a lot of things that have become custom, but they are not right. So we're trying to put everything in order, whether it be in the artisanal sector of mining, where practices over centuries have never given anything good to this country. In the mining sector, the mining code is very precise. It says if you don't do this, well, we take you on that law, and on that law you are going to go through judicial proceedings.
And as I said earlier, responding to skepticism about the pace of Cameroon's mining sector, the Interim Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, Professor Fukalistus Gentry, says the country has moved from mineral potential to actual production. He points to regulatory reforms supporting infrastructure as evidence that the government's mining strategy is beginning to take shape. And of course, he was speaking to the Inside. Take a listen to what he said.
We started 5 mining projects. They are in execution. We are exporting iron ore already at Grand Zambie. Sinus Steel will start exporting iron ore. I just presented to you the wagons and locomotives. There is 5 locomotives that have arrived. For the bauxite in Minimata, was a slogan since independence, taught in primary schools. We have made all those things to happen. We have clinker being produced in Bitsa, transforming limestone into clinker. We have a reformation of the gold sector. We have translated about 110 companies into law courts in the East. We have put up a program to boost and make sure that gold production is transparent and we have a net result to give, and we have explained why the losses are there. So I don't see where the skepticism should be. We are cleaning up industry because we have lived with certain practices. It takes a revolution to uproot those practices, and that's what we're doing. I think we ought to be encouraged. I think skepticism is not going to solve the problem. If I say that bauxite is going to start, and you see that it has started, give me the benefit of doubt that we have moved from point 0 to point X. That is positive. But if I say that iron ore is going to start and it doesn't start, you have a right to say, you said this will start. We have proof for everything we're saying. And I think that we ought to be encouraged, because for the first time, government is saying things and they are being seen and they are being done. It is when all these things will happen that the windfall will change the lives of people. If mining is only said, we have so much, without it being exploited, the lives of people will not change. So we are putting things into perspective, and I think people ought to judge us and say, you said this, has it happened? But I think you have been to the field yourself. You have seen all the projects moving on.
Now, out of Cameroon, an Ivorian government spokesperson has said widespread flooding has killed at least 59 people in the country since the particularly heavy rainy season began in mid-May. Each year, the rainy season from late May to late July brings landslide and flooding that kills dozens, especially in poorer neighborhoods in the country of 30 million people. A particularly high toll of 59 people who have died this year, even though we are only at the beginning of the rainy season. The spokesperson indicated that the situation is quite disturbing.
The government reported
and now,
on Monday.
Elsewhere on the African continent, we bring to you more news concerning the situation in Sudan, where several persons have died, and this after Sudan declared a cholera outbreak in its West Kordofan state. The World Health Organization said on Wednesday that at least 120 people have died from the infection. It added that another 1,102 suspected cases have been reported since May in isolated war zones across the country. And more than 3 years of war between Sudan's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces have decimated the country's healthcare system. The flashpoint West Kordofan state is the dividing front line between zones controlled by the army and those dominated by the rapid support forces. And this is Sudan's third wave of cholera in as many years, and began only 2 months after the last outbreak was declared in March. Now, as on the African continent, Tanzania has deployed military personnel and police in Dar es Salaam and other major cities ahead of planned protests over last year's contested election. The government announced a ban on all political rallies last week, citing security threats without saying how long it would be in place. And youth-led protests plan to gather on 7 July to call for democratic reforms and justice for those killed in last year's election violence. A government-appointed commission found that at least 518 people died in the unrest, but opposition and religious groups say security forces killed thousands, and the protests were driven by the exclusion of leading opposition candidates from the election, which President Samia Suluhu Hassan won with nearly 98% of the vote. Now in more news from around the African continent, the International Criminal Court has expressed deep concerns after Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger officially filed notices to withdraw from the court. Zimbabwe's parliament has approved constitutional changes that could extend presidential terms, and Amnesty International is accusing the Rapid Support Forces of committing crimes against humanity in Darfur, Sudan. Loma Nyeru tells us more.
In West Africa, the International Criminal Court has officially expressed deep concern regarding the recent geopolitical shift in the Sahel region. Specifically, the ICC is closely monitoring the implications surrounding the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from the regional key alliances. Legal analysts fear that these diplomatic retreats could impact international justice mechanism and ongoing human rights monitoring in the region. Turning now to Southern Africa, where major constitutional changes are on the way in Harare. Zimbabwe's parliament has officially validated a legislative amendment allowing for the extension of presidential terms. While supporters urge this move ensures political stability and policy continuity for the administration, opposition figures and civil society groups have raised alarm, viewing it as a setback for democratic term limits. A devastating update from East Africa. Human rights watchdog Amnesty International has leveled severe accusations against Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, in Sudan. The organization formally accuses the parliamentary group of committing crimes against humanity in a conflict-ridden region of Darfur. Urgent calls are being made for the international community to intervene and protect flying civilians.
And we end in sports, a disappointing end for Senegal and the Democratic Republic of Congo in the ongoing 2026 World Cup in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Both teams had their opponents on their ropes before being seeing their World Cup dreams evaporating. And after threatening to pull off one of biggest upsets of the 2026 World Cup, the Democratic Republic of Congo crashed out of the tournament on Wednesday, that's yesterday, after a 2-1 loss to England. Hurricane saved England from an early exit from with 2 second-half goals in the round of 32 of the ongoing World Cup. And Senegal also succumbed to Belgium despite a 2-goal lead over Belgium with just 5 minutes left in the game. Habib Diarra put Senegal in the lead in the 23rd minute. Ismaila Sarr doubled the lead 30 minutes later from deep inside Senegal's half. But late goals by Romelu Lukaku and Yuri Tielemans tied the score in the final minute of regular time, and Tielemans completed Belgium's 3-2 comeback win by converting a penalty just before the end of extra time. And that's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. Primetime Newscast over Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for staying with us. God bless Cameroon. God bless Africa. Goodbye.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
Bonsoir à tous, bienvenue sur le plateau Equinoxe, votre décryptage quotidien de l'actualité de lundi à vendredi, 19h, 21h, 18h, 20h en temps universel, heure de Lomé.
Les mêmes problèmes qu'ils ont posés devant monsieur le gouverneur, c'est les